Hello and everyone, welcome to another episode of CU Reactions. We are halfway through the famous Boxing Day test, the pinnacle of cricket this time of the year. And technically, it's not the halfway to the two tests that's happening because one of the matches is already over. A match involving India that is ended in 3 days and under, in which India is not on the winning side of things. How often have we got to say that in recent years? I have with me the usual suspects, Dalfi, my fellow Australia fan, and the ever pessimistic but with a reason, Dave, who's here to probably rant about India's recent misfortunes the last couple of months. Uh, well, fair to say a lot of which was handled by our guy Scandalf. With that in, let's take a look at the India versus South Africa game. Over to you, Gandalf. What is your thoughts on the game? I'm sure you would only be following it up passively since our focus would have been on Australia versus Pakistan. But based on what you saw, what do you think?
Yeah,
And
I was trying to fill in for the crowd that was missing at the MCG, given it's a Boxing Day test. So I was fully there, mentally focused, and also watching the match, every ball almost. But yes, I was following this match, keeping my eyes on and watching a few parts of it. I think that this was India's probably one of the better chances to win it in South Africa, but they just blew it. I think the bowling was really bad. I would say it lacked a lot of zing that the usual Indian bowling lineup has. Like someone like Shami is missing, obviously. Prasidh Krishna is not a replacement for someone like Shami. Obviously, that was drastic drop in quality, and especially in South African wickets, he would have come in handy. Ashwin, it's always a debatable selection, right? So when you have Ashwin in the team overseas as a lead spinner, and that's what actually makes people question Ashwin's legacy and his importance to the Indian side, and comparisons with someone like, let's say, a Graham Swan or a Nathan Lyon as the leading off spinner for their team. And that's, I think, people are probably right in their assessment that Ashwin doesn't deliver when it's actually required, especially overseas. He's probably someone like James Anderson and Stuart Broad for England, who have delivered for England in England. So at home, Ashwin's a tiger. In South Africa, probably, I would have loved, I'm a big Ashwin fan, but I'd have loved for him to actually do well. But I thought he will actually turn the match around. But unfortunately, things went downhill. I think with the body language, with the way the lower order of South Africa batted, Marco Jansen, getting those useful runs, building the lead further. That showed. I think India lost the game from there. They were never back in the
right.
game after that.
So
The
I'm
body
gonna
language
take a step
really showed.
back and quickly read out the scorecard so there is more context before we dissect the game further. So India batted first, 245 all out in the first innings. Um, Definitely below the par score from my understanding, but it was a total that they could have still fought with. Not necessarily take a lead, but something where even after South Africa's innings, they could have possibly come back from. But in reply, South Africa, Dean Elgar played one of his uncharacteristic knocks. I'll come back to that. South Africa end first innings with uh, 408 on the board, which was a healthy one. What is that? 150 odd lead in the first innings. I think the game was pretty much done and dusted right there because South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, since their readmission into cricket in 1992, after having taken a lead of 150 runs in the first innings, they have never lost a game. And today was not going to be the day that they rewrote that history for the worse. So that was first innings. And in reply, India absolutely folded, to borrow a statement from our good friend VS, who's not here. They folded like a lawn chair during, you know, summer in one of the Australian beaches. 131 all out. And the pick of the bowlers were Marco Janssen, Rabada, as we were all come to expect in recent South African winning exploits. But the standout performer for them was Nandre Berger. I'm sure my fellow Spanish connoisseur at this point would step in and correct that, saying it's Boscher or something. But I'm gonna stick with Burger. I want to give the audience the Burger versus Vada Pav contest that I'm sure is going to be a thing in the future. He was the pick of the bowlers, 4 wickets on his debut. That was just in the second innings. To go with 3 wickets that he took in the first innings, which gives him an 8 for in the game. And of course, that means South Africa did not have to bat again. So India ended the game well, like I guess 50 or odd runs short of 30 runs short of South Africa, handing South Africa an innings and 32 runs victory. Dave, how do you feel?
It's bloody embarrassing, is what it is. How can you lose in 3 days? Like, I do not care if the bowling lineup is weekend or like. I don't think the batting lineup was weekend at all. You have all the regular players like Kohli, Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, etc., etc., Rohit Sharma. Bowling lineup, I can understand. You can say that it is a little bit weakened, but come on, you cannot lose. How are Rabada and Burger bowling so well in a track, and you're making that track look bloody flat track? It's very irritating, and I have a bone to pick with the death bowling of India. Like, even when there was a chance, actually, even deep into the second innings, when they were like 250 for 5, or South Africa were 250 for 5, you can at least like try to get the tail out quickly, and hopefully you can drag this to the fourth innings. They let that partnership go on for like 100 runs. They let Marco Jansen score 85 runs. At that point, you don't deserve to win, and that is my big problem. This is a symptom of a larger disease which Indian test bowling has had for the last few years. When there is no Bumrah or Shami, India struggles to get rid of the tail, and that has happened time and time again. I'm not even kidding. I think the last good death bowler, apart from say Bumrah or Shami, was Anil Kumble back in 2007, when he used to bowl those leg spinning Yorkers to the tailenders and get them out quickly. it's it blows my mind how can such a, you call this a final frontier, you hype this up, you are like, we have won everywhere else, now we are going to win here as well. Then at least don't get embarrassed like this. Like, this was a proper embarrassment for the Indian team, I would say.
Well, totally resonate with those sentiments, Dave, and I think you have every right to be this upset, considering the World Cup loss and how it unfolded. Um, so this South African series was supposed to be a statement comeback from this Indian side led by Rohit Sharma, and unfortunately they did not live up to this. And I have a question to both Gandalf, as somebody who follows a lot of cricket, and Dave, who follows Indian cricket in particular. I think this is something that I tweeted out during the middle of the game as well. When I was actually watching Mitchell Marsh bat for Australia, I compared his innings with that of Manas Labuschagne back from when he debuted. So when when you know that your place in the team depends on that particular game, every game becomes make or break for you as an individual in the 11. Um, but unfortunately, I don't. When I look at body language with India, I think Gandalf touched on this as well, right? So the lack of confidence, it felt like a toothless team coming in, not sure what they want to do. Uh, so this mentality, do you think this Indian 11, they all desperately want to be in the team? Like, I don't see them fighting for their place. That's the broader point that I'm trying to make. There is just a hint of lethargy. There is this complacency. And the reason that I'm specifically bringing this up instead of actual performances is, if you look at the results over the last 2 years, be it the World Cup finals or the WTC against Australia or the WTC against New Zealand, it's the same complacency. Every game that India has gone into, like somehow, maybe it's the fans or maybe it's the players themselves who have bought into the hype. It feels like India is invincible until they get battered and their has handed down, and then it happens again. In between, you win a couple of meaningless bilaterals, it's all forgotten. But this general sense of complacency that, hey, I'm gonna be in the 11, so doesn't matter what I do this match or next match. So the difference between somebody who does that against players who take it way too seriously, as somebody who has followed players like that recently, that difference is clear to me like night and day. Sorry for the long winded question, but I hope you got the point. Who wants to go first from here?
I think I can probably take a stab. I don't know if I can answer your question, but I feel that yes, there is this air of invincibility about them, not just within the team, but also within the fan community, the media, the overall Indian cricket fandom, and everyone feels that this team is invincible. All of a sudden, it just builds up to that, to some main event, and then they fall steep from there. It happened, in my memory, for the first time in 2003, the World Cup. I know Australia was a very dominant side back then, but then everyone believed in the cricket community that if there was any team which can beat Australia, which could beat Australia, it was Ganguly's Indian team. And then there was the final match where they seemed like they had no clue why they were there. They won the toss, they just blew it, they gave away runs, they couldn't chase it, they just, fell from there. It was just a one-sided display. Now, fast forward all the way to the Cricket World Cup final that we just witnessed in November. Now you had, once again, Australia, choosing to bowl first. And then after a point, after those 3 wickets, and when I think the first 3 wickets that Australia lost, when Head and Labuschagne were building a partnership, you saw shoulders drop. You saw, the body language of the Indian fielders and the captain himself. I'm so sorry to say, Rohit Sharma himself certainly gives away that we are done for. And I
Yeah,
think
he
it's
doesn't have
clearly
that
shows in the
stoic
body fluid.
outlook, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whenever the team is down, you can see it in his face. Dave, I think you
Absolutely.
you want to chime in. I'm sure you have a few things to say about this as well.
Yeah. So see, I think there's a sense of complacency in like certain key players rather than the entire team. I would say that there's a sense of complacency when it comes to certain batters. Shreyas Iyer, for example, you have Rohit Sharma. I think even Ravichandran Ashwin. I think there are certain players we need to move on from. Uh, we need to move on from Rohit Sharma. I don't think he's a good test batsman when it comes to overseas conditions. His footwork is not there to manage that type of swing bowling. I don't think Ravichandran Ashwin works overseas. Even though he has got a great record, we need to bring in a different spinner who can probably exploit those conditions better rather than Ravi Ashwin. Uh, there's a problem with like Khandal just pointed out. There's a problem with captainship as well, because whenever Virat Kohli was captain of the Test team, you could see that aggressiveness. Like when I can guarantee you, when South Africa were 250 for five yesterday around afternoon time, I can guarantee you that had Rohit Sharma been the captain, there would have been a bigger and more intense push towards getting rid of the tail rather
I
than
think you
what
mean
there
Virat
was
Kohli,
You,
now.
right?
you mean Virat Kohli?
Yeah, Virat
Yeah.
Kohli. Yeah,
Yeah.
had Virat Kohli been the captain, so I think we need to, at least for test matches, we need to move on from Rohit Sharma. I don't think it's happening for him in as a batter. I don't think it's happening for him as a captain either. I'm pretty sure
But
a lot of
uh,
Mumbai Indian fans will hate me for saying this, but I'm okay with
Should we
that.
have a
I think
domestic
this.
home captain and an away captain as a new concept in cricket? At
I think
least.
we should have just give the test captainship back to Virat, man. Come on, like I
I
don't
I
think
don't
think
know.
he
that's
has
I mean,
done.
we are past that, man.
yeah,
So
realistically
you went
speaking,
ahead and
you know,
burned the bridges with.
Yeah,
Virat
but
Kohli.
that is the stupid thing, right? Like he was the ideal test captain. When there's a 5-day test match going on, you need that level of intensity coming in, that level of intensity being transferred to the players, that every day we play like it's day 5 and we
That's
need to
true.
finish games. We are not
Yeah,
going to accept draws here.
yeah.
Yeah, so
And
I
So
think
I also,
the sort of
this is where I'll probably bring in is so-called headlines and feud with Saurav Ganguly. And Ganguly, in a recent interview, actually spoke about the fact that Virat Kohli was the one who was okay with giving up some sort of captaincy, and I think Ganguly just advised him to move on from white ball captaincy. And Virat said, "If I'm not white ball captain, I'm moving on from everything." And I think that's where he also had to step off from the red ball captaincy as well. But I think it's a very bad decision, in my opinion, to take Virat Kohli out of. I remember some of these anecdotes and the other things that we have heard about Virat Kohli, the Test captain. He brings in that intensity that is much required. He will go for the kill if he senses that the opposition, hence senses that the opposition is in some kind of a back foot. He will definitely go for the kill. I remember, even when India didn't have too much to defend in England somewhere, there's some documentary or somewhere where players said that before England went on to bat for the final chase, chasing a really paltry score, Virat Kohli in the huddle before they went on to bowl told the entire Indian team who are about to play that the next 1 hour is going to be hell for these guys. Just make sure that it's hell for the English batsmen. So it's that kind of although they didn't have much to defend. So that's the story. But the ball was doing much, and Kohli was well aware of that fact. That's when we need to push the pedal hard and really go for the kill. So I think, yeah, the captaincy certainly makes it.
also, just to add very small point, you can see if in a second innings your captain is coming to open and is getting out for a duck, it does not really inspire confidence amongst the rest of the players. So, out of this 130 odd runs India scored, 75 runs were scored by Virat Kohli. He's clearly, apart from say KL Rahul, he's clearly the best batsman India has even in overseas condition, whether it is Indian condition. I cannot for the life of me imagine why Rohit Sharma is a test captain at this point. I think he will remain the
yeah.
test captain, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Speak, speaking of Rohit Sharma, where did it all go wrong for the man personally? Little less than 2 months ago, he was hailed as the greatest thing to happen to Indian cricket since sliced Dhoni or something. And then look at it, in a matter of one game at the World Cup, and then one fiasco by Mumbai Indians, then one match in South Africa. It also goes on to show how fickle and cruel the sport itself can sometimes
and,
be to an
and fickle
individual.
and cruel how the Indian cricket fans can be. I mean, it just takes another match, probably a turnaround in the second test match for all of these guys to become heroes again.
Yeah,
Probably I would see this 131 all out that India has as something like a 36 all out that they had back in Australia back then. I would at least hope that for the Indian fans if that's the case. But
yeah.
I think we have a very clear elephant in the room in the form of our bowling all-rounders. Initially, the debate was whether it would be Ashwin or Shardul Thakur. Then both of them played. Do you guys really think that Shardul Thakur's place in this team is justified?
I would like to go first, even though I'm not a regular, and even though I know that I think he has reacted the way he feels, and I remember they've always being critical of Shardul Thakur whenever we bring him up, even in group chats. I'm the one usually defending him, but my defense came from the fact that India were so be it Ashwin or Shardul Thakur, they are essentially plan B for a Hardik Pandya. That all rounder who can bat really well and bowl okay, which is Hardik. And one of these two guys is the reverse of that. Bowlers who can do more than a handy job with the bat. So you either pick Ashwin or Thakur. It's as simple as that. If you want a like for like replacement, you have Thakur being the base option. If you trust Ashwin's leadership, judgment, and whatnot, Ashwin is the way to go. India pick both of them. They don't give enough overs to Ashwin. I see that being a very regular complaint. Dev, I actually disagree with you when you say Ashwin is done for. Even in today's game, Ashwin was probably the pick of the bowlers, and you don't have a legit spin option to replace Ashwin. Maybe barring Akshar Patel. I don't know why Akshar Patel is not playing. Is he injured or something? So anyway, he's top two best spin bowling options for India. But Thakur's place, he simply doesn't have the bite to sustain a test environment in 2024. So he can change the games around in T20 just with this, reckless batting, which will get you that 30 or 35 runs. The role that Harbhajan Singh used to play for Mumbai Indians all those years back.
And he
Even
has
in
this knack
ODI,
of picking up crucial wickets at
picking up, yeah.
absolutely
Mm,
unexpected times, and
yeah.
he will give you that joy, and that's why
Yeah.
people call him Lord Shardul Thakur. But the
Yeah.
point is,
So,
he's not test quality. People
mm,
might disagree because of the Gabba heroics and whatever he did in Test cricket in Australia. But then,
and let's not
yeah,
take away what he did in South Africa, right? In
yeah.
2018, he was actually likely man of the match, I guess. He had a 7 for, but that was 5 years ago. And I don't think Thakur has played regular cricket for India to walk into the 11 against South Africa in South Africa. I think India severely
See,
underestimated the South African inexperienced lineup, and they probably thought they could get away with it.
And
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 South
I'll tell you the
Africa just,
reason why they Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason why they might have probably gone for Ashwin. It's because of the South African tracks with a little bit of bounce. You need spinners like Ashwin or Nathan Lyon, who have this high arm action, which can extract that bounce from those surfaces. Along with the top spinner, if you get those bounce, you will actually be a good, useful resource on such tracks. And which is why they might go in for someone like an Ashwin over, let's say, someone else like Akshar Patel or someone with a more sidearm and slinging action. So yeah, that justifies Ashwin's selection. I still don't, agree with Shardul Thakur on the team. Ashwin probably has a lot more to give to Indian cricket.
See, India needs to find a solution for that bowling, batting, all rounder slot, because I am just going ahead and assuming that even in the future, we won't see a lot of Hardik Pandya in Test squad, considering his long history of injuries and the fact that he's injured again as we speak. So they need to find a solution for that. And the solution is not Shardul Thakur. I'm really sorry. It can be anyone. I'm not sure. I don't do scouting. I do not know any of the new players who can probably come in and take that spot. But it cannot be Shardul Thakur. Akshar Patel is a good shout. He's actually handy with the bat, in the sense that when he bats, I know there's some technique involved, which is not something I say for Shardul Thakur. Especially in swinging conditions, I think he leaves a lot to be desired in with his batting. With his bowling, he's okay. He's okay. He's not going to light the world on fire with his bowling.
And I think we should not take away any credit from the South Africa batters. And if you look at the scorecard, both the innings, you will see a lot of single digits or low scores at the top of the order, except for the South African scorecard where Dean Elgar made a lot of difference, because it's really tough to face the new ball. Let's agree on that. Openers. While we may say that Rohit Sharma is in decline, it's really tough to bat in away conditions at the top against someone like KJ Rabada and all these guys running riot, right? So that innings in his farewell series definitely is a standout. Apart from the Kohli innings that we saw, I mean, which clearly shows that Kohli's probably in a second coming, right? So we have
yeah.
had a
So,
lean. Yeah,
this is exactly what I was talking about. Kohli plays like his career is on the line at
yeah,
35 when he has achieved everything that he wants to. He really
yeah.
wants to prove his redemption arc. We saw him at the World Cup. We are seeing him here. And if that guy can do that after everything he has achieved, um, you don't need to look further for inspiration. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm this enraged about Indian
Even no,
performance.
even KL Rahul, like you can see for a fact that he post his injury, he really wants to play well and keep his spot, because there's always this specter of Rishabh Pant somewhere in the background, I think, roaming around in KL Rahul's
Yeah,
mind.
there is
So
Rishabh Pant, there is Ishan Kishan. There are quite a few
yeah,
wicketkeeper batters who are trying to, vie for that.
yeah, so
Sanju
he is
Samson.
playing like his spot is under threat. I don't think some of the batters are playing like their spot, or even like some of the bowlers aren't playing like their spots are under threat. So it's a
Yeah.
unfortunate day for Indian cricket with a lot of questions,
And
more
I just
questions than
wanted to go
answers.
back to Dean Elgar's performance. At the beginning, I talked about how it was an uncharacteristic knock for Elgar. What I meant by that is, if you have followed South Africa cricket even passively, you would see Dean Elgar is that targety, ruggedy kind of batsman. Like he is usually the one standing between a steamrolling win for the opposition. South Africa inevitably breaks down, but it's always an Elgar away. So there is this famous A.B. de Villiers innings where he scores like 33 runs in how many balls was that? 155 balls or something. This innings where you would have seen
Yeah.
like this peak test cricket that ABD did, and that's spoken about how it's one of the best test innings of all time. For oh yeah, I think it's 33 from 220 balls if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We should probably look it up after this.
I'm
That's
not
how
sure if it
Elgar
is.
has batted.
If I recall, it was against Australia, I guess. Not sure. But,
Possibly.
yeah.
Or I don't know if it were against Australia, you would know who were the bowlers who bowled those 220 balls.
But I think
Your
you're right.
memory
Dean
being
Elgar,
little
someone
weak.
like someone like Faf du Plessis used to be when he
Yeah.
played Test matches.
Mm.
Like
Or even
really tough,
Usman Khawaja for that
yeah,
matter.
tough, really tough it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not really aesthetically pleasing to watch, but
yeah.
a real pain in the ass for the opposition. But the fact that Dean Elgar was made to look like the now retired Quinton de Kock, that is what baffles me the most about this lineup more than anything. But as Gandalf said, let's not take anything away from the likes of Elgar or the ever reliable Rabada or um, the Burger man who debuted. Well, I think if there
Jensen.
was one takeaway that we could all have amidst all the battles between foods today, Burger prevailed over Vada Pav, I guess. But I'm pretty sure Vada Pav will come back very soon, and so will us, because we have another Boxing Day encounter that is still actually happening, and you know, like Ravi Shastri would say, looks like it's going to go down the wire. And Gandalf is, you should see his face light up the second I mentioned Australia. So I'm gonna let Gandalf take it for a minute here before we end the stream.
No, I think it's like Ravi Shastri would call it. It's expected to go down to the wire and very evenly poised. It could for tilt in anyone's favor at this point in time. But still think that Australia have their noses in front slightly with the way they have built up the lead. Slightly disappointed with Smith getting a start again and not converting it into a big score, but I think he played a real good innings,
Yeah.
characteristic Smith style, where the rest of them would fall around him and then he would find it like an easy pitch to bat
Yeah.
on. So whenever someone else scores a
Yeah,
hundred,
he
I think
got his
yeah,
hands back on.
yeah. So I think
So
Smith
I'm
is
quickly gonna
also a victim of his own high standards, right? So he scored a 900 plus runs this year at around 43 average, and we still think he's actually
wow,
lost his mojo.
43. We should sack him.
Yeah, we still think he's lost his
43
mojo.
is grounds for sacking and banning him.
There are cricketers
Give
who
me a
probably aim for 1,000 runs in a calendar year as marquee achievement. So I think Smith is definitely just a few innings away from greatness again.
Yeah.
But God knows if he'll call a surprise and early retirement. But definitely something we can look forward to. is enough excitement in this match because of the way Pakistan are bowling.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
I'm gonna quickly read out those scores as well. So Australia currently lead by 240 runs, which is a decent lead, but they definitely need another 100 runs from here, at least 320 plus. Pakistan, along with England, have been the orchestrators of fourth innings heights in recent times. Uh, they have been masters at it. Wily, unpredictable customers. You'll never know. Randomly, Shan Masood or I don't count on Babar
some
Azam in England, Australia.
Rizwan can actually hit a
This
fourth innings
one,
for
they're just
60, 70.
randomly like 100 from 82 balls, and I would be like, Australia have this in the bag. Kendall and I would wake up at 10 a.m. and it will say Pakistan won by 2 wickets or something. So there is always the scope for that when Pakistan is involved. 240 run lead, 2 days to go. Definitely, this is setting up to be a good Boxing Day classic that South Africa versus India failed to live up to. We'll come back for that as well. Hopefully, we'll either discuss it in the weekly or if it warrants a separate episode for that alone. Thank you for watching this. Thank you, Gandalf and Dave. Dave, especially to you, considering the state of your team. Every time you have had to come in and bat for your team. Only if your team did more of that for themselves, you wouldn't be put in this position all the time. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a great time ahead whenever you're watching this. See you again in another episode of See You.
See you.